for him. Oh, damn. 18 inches. Get in there.
Hey folks, we're at the Innovative Sportsman Shop. We're getting ready to dig into a Old Town Predator. We're putting foot control steering on it. So I'm gonna let Jake talk a little bit about why we're doing this rigging.
So this boat is both pedal and motor. That was the intent whenever I rigged it up and had Trey do the plate in the back. And initially I started it out with just the hand rudder steering. And using the hand rudder steering when fishing with the motor is just absolutely, it just doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it was a pain in the butt. As a matter of fact, one day we were out fishing the river, I was having to fight it so much, my hand actually started cramping and it became incredibly difficult to steer with the current, heavy current that day. But, it's just much more efficient to use the foot control steering while you're still fishing. You can set your motor to whatever setting you need to set it at, and then you can steer your motor with this. What we did here today, and I'm sure we'll go into it a little bit more, is we made it awesome. Because if you can see that, we got clearance no matter where we go. So I can leave that there, and whenever I'm not using it, I can push it out of the way. It's going to work out really good. I'm really excited for it. So
we're going to take it step by step. We got some parts here, and we actually ended up not using these, but we did use the 90-degree adapters. This isn't the Mighty Mount version, but it's the lock and load 90-degree adapter. And they worked out really well here in the existing inserts, which are...
This is the removable mounting plate that Old Town made for the Predator line.
Yep.
You can take these on and off, and it just worked out really well that those went directly into the inserts, and we didn't have to drill into the plate, nor did we have to drill into the kayak. So okay. It is a very clean install.
Yep. So we've started it. Let's go ahead and finish it. We're going to show step by step how to do just getting the foot control steering track on there. That's part of the Innovative Sportsman steering foot control steering kit.
So we're going to put this together. Which side did you use over here? There we go. Screwdriver.
So when using these 90-degree adapters, they come with a longer bolt inside of them. We're going to do away with that and do away with that wing nut there. So we're basically stripping the 90-degree adapter down to nothing. And then, as you can see what Jake's doing now, he's using the existing insert that's in this kayak.
I'm not going to tighten it down completely until we get it all set up.
So then we got the other one here.
Was it on the inside?
It's outside. And then we're using shorter hardware. It's still a carriage bolt, just like what was used with what came with the 90-degree adapter, but we needed something shorter to work with the foot pegs. We're using the Select Designs sliding foot pegs for rudder control. That's what we use in all of our kits for foot controlled steering for Torqeedo motors or any motor for that matter.
Actually, let's do this back first.
Reach. Oh yeah. Lock washer there.
So just like that. There's a little bit of rubbing there, but I think rubbing's racing, so we're good. So we're gonna get ready. We're gonna run the tubing for the foot control steering as well as the Spectra cord. But before we do that, this is a 2019 version Predator PDL. I want to show you what the 2020 PDLs and the new Sportsman 132 PDL, how they will be the exact same. There won't be any differences. So if we go over here, I'll show you that we'll talk about the back end in a second, but everything else up front, this is all going to be the exact same as it was on the 2019 version. So it's this outside screw out of each mounting plate that you would take out to install that foot control steering. And everything else is going to be identical. Now when we get to the back, Trey's got to take some measurements to do a plate, because when you run a motor on this boat, you have to take this rudder off. And this rudder is not even a comparison to this rudder that's made by Innovative Sportsman. This rudder turns that boat so much better than this little tiny plastic rudder will do. This is going back to the 2019 version PDL rudder, which I personally feel turned the boat more aggressively and responsibly than this rudder does. So there's going to be some benefit to that too. And as you can see, it fits down inside the Torqeedo mount and is virtually seamless. So when you're fishing a Hobie BOS, you don't have to have 2 kayaks, you only have to have 1. This is the tubing we're going to use. Tubing is going to run from here in the kayak. It's going to go in right here. It's going to run all the way to the back, and it's going to come out somewhere probably like in this area or this area here. I'm thinking more here. And it's going to come up to the steering triangle. It's going to do that on both sides. On this side, it's going to be slightly different because we don't have the cup holder over here. So it's going to come back and it's going to go in somewhere around this area. And the same place on the back side is going to come out. We're going to run 2 sets of tubing, and then we're going to run the Spectra cord inside the tubing to the steering triangle in the back.
All right, so we're getting ready to drill the holes in the back of the kayak for the tubing, so the Spectra cord can come out. We're using a 3/16 bit for 3/16 tubing. It'll be a nice snug fit coming out. That way when we mushroom the end of the tubing, it'll give it a nice, it'll spread it out nicely so it doesn't pull back through the hole and cause future problems. We're gonna put this one in the lower corner here. It's the thicker part. And as you can see, the other cables are still in here, because like Jake mentioned earlier, he's going to have a dual steering setup on here. It'll be foot pedal, and he'll still be able to use his rudder handle to steer the motor. All right, so in the front here, where the tubing is going to come out in the front, where the Spectra cord comes from the slide foot pedals, we're going to put them here. You're trying to get this as straight a point as possible from the slide pedals to where it goes into the hull at. And then, so what we just did here off of camera was held up a piece of string to figure out where the best place was to have the holes. So what it's going to do is the Spectra cord is going to come right down through here, and it's going to slightly rub this, which isn't going to affect anything. And the end of the tubing will be here, so that it'll have a straight shot to go into the hull. And then on the other side, it's a little different, but it's basically the same spot coming off of the pedal. So we're going to go ahead and put these holes in. Make Jake nervous here drilling holes in his kayak.
That's why I don't do it. Let somebody else do it. That way if they do it, they gotta fix it. So we want to do is we want to put this thing down in here like this, get it in there nice and good, tight, and then once we get it down inside the hole, we're going to make sure we go around this scupper hole right here on the inside and back that way, and then Trey's going to grab it once it gets back there. That's what the little trick of using the coat hanger is helpful for. All right, so this is going to run down inside there. Like I said, we're going to make sure we go on the opposite side of this scupper hole because we don't want to get it caught around there. And then Trey, once you get that back there,
Got it.
pull it out.
Pulling it gently so we don't pull it out of the tubing before we get it back here. But now that we've got it, we can run it up inside. Find the hole that we drilled. Just there. Pull it out, and we'll cut the end off because of where the coat hanger was. It's got a little bit disformed, or deformed, I should say. Jake likes to correct me because I'm a hillbilly and I don't always talk correctly, so.
Jake's equal amount hillbilly.
So once you get the tubing through, you see it fits really snug through the hole. It doesn't have any play. And what we need to do is match the end of the tubing so it will not pull back through, because once we get this end in, we'll pull it tight so that it's a nice straight line for the spectra cord to run down through the hull of the kayak. So I got a little torch here. We'll take and warm up the end of the tubing. You want to do it slow. You don't want to burn the tubing. Then take your screw and mash the end down a little bit. And then do it again. Oops. And once you get it pushed in a little bit, you can heat it up one last time. And then you take the head of the screw and kind of flatten it. And then Jake's up there. You can go ahead and pull on the tubing. And you can actually pull it tight and it'll stretch the tubing on the inside and give it a nice straight line for that spectra cord to travel through there. So we just put a little silicone around it. We got silicone on the paper towel. Just put it on there with our finger and then pulled it in there. That way just a little extra sealant. Very small chance of water getting in there anyway, but it does help to definitely seal it up. All right, so once we move back up to the front here, you actually have to stretch the tubing. It's good to pull it nice and tight. I've realized this with my kayak. I have a Bonafide and I didn't pull the tubing tight enough. And what happens is when you use your pedals, you can hear that tubing in there moving around. It actually slaps the side of my kayak. It's really annoying and I need to redo it. But so I learned that lesson the hard way, but you pull the tubing tight. And I have a pair of pliers here that have like they're welding pliers, but they have a rounded hole there. It makes it really nice to be able to hold that. And then you cut it off and you repeat the process of heating it and smashing it. And there goes Jake's tubing just coiling around my shop. So again, trying to heat it slowly. You don't want to burn it. That one actually smashed better than the back. So before we release it, you want to let it cool a little bit. That way the little flange that's created here after heating it and smashing it, you don't want that to pull through because we do have a fair amount of tension on this. Jake, I think this is going to take two hands to get that
sealant behind there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to pull on it. If you can get it in there. You got silicone all over my pliers, man.
Well, you know. Can
I what?
Get in here? That's the best it's gonna get. You might have some silicone on your pliers.
You good?
Yeah.
All right. So we've let it go. You know, wipe off all the excess there.
And I can reach up inside of there and still feel the tension on the tubing, so that's good. Won't be any moving around in there. All right, what I have here is a spool of spectracord. It took us a while to find this stuff, but we were able to figure out the source of it, and we have to buy it in bulk. On our website, innovativesportsman.com, we sell it by the foot, and it also comes with the steering kit. It comes with the tubing and rudder cord kit, which used to be our tubing and cable kit. We went from stainless steel to stainless steel braided cable to this stuff. This stuff, it self-lubricates, it slides easier, you can tie it, untie it, and reuse it, whereas the old cable you used to have to actually cut it and get a new cable because by then it was too short, and you had to crimp it all back together. So it was not reusable, but this stuff is definitely reusable. Much better option. It's a better product all the way around. So what we do now is we can feed this stuff straight through, put it right in the tubing. And as long as the tubing is ran straight with no kinks, this stuff will go right through without a problem.
Got it.
All right, pull out extra.
All right, I guess I'm doing this part. This is just tying a noose knot in the end there. So, and I like to give it plenty to work with. If the part where it goes into the hull is close, you want to keep it fairly short. But I like to work, you know, extra coils into it. That way you just have extra material there if you have a breakage, which I've only ever had a breakage once, and I could see it coming because it was rubbing against something sharp. We looked at this and we're not rubbing on anything really sharp, so we're good. So I'm just coiling it, you know, started coiling it back in the direction of where I looped it in there, and there isn't a specific number. The more coils, the more extra material you kind of build into what you got here. But I would say minimum of 6. And you know, you get down towards the end, and actually I'm gonna do one less because I'm gonna give myself a little bit extra line to run it back up through the original loop once this cinches down. So got a little bit extra there, run that through, and that'll settle down. You're going to put a lot of pressure on there and it can handle it. You know, we're putting the 1103 on it, so it's a 3 horsepower equivalent electric motor that you're moving how long is this boat? 13 and a half?
13 foot 2 inches.
Yeah, 13-foot boat with, you know, a lot of different gear in there. It needs to be tough, and it is. So we'll go ahead and slide this back in there, and we'll do the other side.
All right, so we've got this ring clamp with the quick release cam lock on it. We're gonna put this on here first. And we're running it all the way down to keep the motor as high as possible. And this is something that can be adjusted later on with ease because of the cam lock. But once he gets it out on the water, he can adjust the motor up or down, whichever he needs. So that's that. And we can actually just set the motor down. We got the steering triangle with the raised bar. We're gonna put that on, but supplied is this, it's called carbon assembly paste. And what this does is you apply it on here and it stops the steering triangle from slipping on the shaft, because this motor has so much force that it takes a lot of pressure to hold this clamp from slipping on it, and without having to really crank down on that steering triangle, you know, you still have to get it fairly tight, but this stuff will help prevent slippage. There's a paste and it has some type of material in it. It almost feels like sand. I don't know what the actual makeup is of it, but it just stops that steering triangle from slipping on there. Steering triangle goes on, collar down. We want to put the steering triangle as high as possible. It gives you more leverage when you're going to lift this heavy motor, so that it makes it easier to lift. All right, let me look straight. It's hard to see. It's awful little. All right, get your steering triangle straight, and then tighten up the nut on the cam lock, and then latch it down. So that keeps everything nice and high. It gives you a high leverage point. So when your cord's coming up through here and then back down, it gives you a lot of leverage to lift that motor and makes it a lot easier to lift.
So I was looking at this and I already knew that it needs to be a little bit lower. You want to start with it as high as possible, and I've already moved it down, but then I got down low, and you can see where Jake and I were fishing the Susquehanna River when it was muddy. We got that mud line on there. That's a really good gauge of where this is. And right now, you got about that much of the prop out of the water. It's a good prop. We're actually gonna change it over to the weedless one, but they're both very good at not ventilating, not having air incorporate into it. That being said, you need it, I'd say, within 1.5 inches or 2 inches below the surface. So the visible mud line on there says that we got to lower it, and I just lowered it. I also adjusted the trim adjustment out one so that it's angled back just a little bit. So see how that looks with mud line. It's about there, and we're right there. We'll see how it is. You test it on the water. As long as you don't hear that gurgling, as long as you don't hear that, you know, churning and that loss of power of the ventilation of the prop, then you're good.
Now, if I'm gonna be primarily pedaling with shoes or something on, which, you know, I don't often do. In the summertime, I often pedal in barefoot, but just move those back like that. Right now what we're doing is we're getting the foot pedals centered to where I need them to be for my foot control steering. That way I can easily, you know, use them. Just, you know, when I'm going to be pedaling, I'm not going to be using foot controlled steering. So I'll be able to move those out of the way. If I'm pedaling, I'm going to be using the rudder here. But, you know, having these centered is very important. That way you get the maximum amount of turning radius.
I just put a clamp on the foot controls here so they don't move. So when Jeff ties the back on there, he can pull these snug so everything is the right length and everything.
So Jake still has his the rudder control cables for his hand control. We just kind of tuck those in there with the Night Eyes S-beaners. You got the small carabiners that come with the Ultralight 1103, and I'm just kind of measuring with that clamp on there, so it's going to be a little bit short of it on purpose, because we're going to expect there's going to be a little bit of stretch. So I'm going to do the same knot that I did at the front back here, and we'll go ahead and attach that, and then do the same thing on the other side.
These aren't going to be in here whenever I'm steering like this.
Correct.
You want to get the flat bottom?
No. It's got good rotation. So our steering is limited, and it's a safety feature by these pins here. Keep going, Jake. So that ring clamp that sets your depth also needs to be centered on this center hole here. And these pins limit the steering so that you're not really gunning it and creating a lot of torque sideways on this boat. So how's it feel?
It feels good. It's a little high. It'll be something to get used to, but it feels good.
I think it's better to have it high on the foot than try to be moving it, you know, right down there. So,
I mean, it'll work out perfect for you whenever you're testing it.
Yeah.
So we're switching out the prop that comes on the 1103 and putting the Weedless Prop on there. Jake's got the Weedless Prop.
Got some extra hardware in there too.
You want to make sure that your shear pin is centered. Spin it to line it up to the shear pin. There you go. Put the washer on. Jake's a good person to have do this, because if Jake can do it, most people can do it.
Better be careful this wrench don't slip.
As long as you're holding the prop, the shaft won't spin. You got to hold the prop all the way in onto the shear pin. And there's no need to over tighten it. I've got our new rock guard here. It's specifically for the 1103 motor, has the grass blaster. This is the clamp part of the rock guard. The aluminum part of the rock guard is right here. And you put the clamp on, you line the holes up, and then the rock guard sits there, protects the prop. So let me go ahead and slide this on real quick. What I do want to mention before we put it on is you can see there's two screws that hold the blade on. If I actually just switched this around since Jake is switching props, but there's an extra set of holes in there. When you get these, they will come ready to put on the original prop that comes with the 1103. If you switch out to the Weedless Prop, then all you have to do is take those two screws out, slide the blade back to the next two holes, and then put the two screws back in. But it's real simple to put on. You start from the back, and you got this split section here. You just gently slide it up on here, and it'll give you a little bit of resistance. Make sure you don't get your finger or anything in here, or the sensitive part of your skin there, because it will pinch you. And then you push it down. As you can see, for the Weedless Prop, the propeller blades come up a lot farther on the Weedless Prop, so that's why we moved it. But it comes out, and it comes close without ever interfering with it. And then take the metal part, stick it on here, and there's stainless steel threads inside of here. You just line the holes up, start everything by hand, and then take a screwdriver and make sure they're both started really good before you start really wrenching on it. And then just tighten it down. And what it'll do is it'll sandwich all this together and take these two pieces and basically marry them and make one, so it's just a rigid rock guard. We did this so that it's easy to install. You don't have to take anything apart on the motor itself. And once they're snug down, then it all clamps together. It won't slide up and down, it won't move. It can take good strikes here, and it protects the prop. So I think the whole thing, it weighs just under 2 pounds, so it really doesn't add any weight, and easy to install. So it's about 5 to 10 minutes to install it.
All right, so we're gonna run this cord for the motor raise. We're gonna run it through the eyelet here. We're gonna come down here and we're gonna make it so it's kind of like a pulley system, and it makes it a lot easier to lift this heavy motor. So, oh, I guess that's gotta be there. And then bring this down here and we'll push that through there. And then just gonna tie a simple overhand knot. I already have it kind of mushroomed out so it shouldn't slip, but that simple overhand knot's going to go like that, and then this will run up here for the motor raise. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm installing this U-bolt. It's going to make it even easier to raise, where the rope's going to come through the U-bolt and then back through this clamp to hold the motor up whenever it's raised up. All these different turns make, you know, a lot less effort to lift the motor. So that's a key part, you know. This will go in here like so. Get in there. And then the other side will be there. And then depending on it, I'm gonna test it out and see what's comfortable, how far away I want them from each other. But the rope will come through here and then back through here where there's a little ball. I use the black for the motor raise and the red for the reverse lock. To me, red, reverse, I don't know, just works for me. But that way I know which one's which. Once I get that through, I'll tie another overhand knot once it goes through here and then back through there, and that'll be my motor raise.
So both the U-shaped plate that we already have on there and the cleat here go on there with these little Phillips head screws, and the discs, and we just slide that on there, just spin it on there. It actually tells you which side is top.
All right, we just finished up with the Torqeedo 1103 Ultralight 1103 install on the Old Town Predator PDL. This is the 2019 version. Everything is rigged. Your steering, your reverse lock, your foot control, you have your motor raise. Everything is ready to go. If you look back here, you get absolute full range of motion with the foot control steering on the 1103, the way this is all set up. You're not going to get any better steering than that out of this particular setup. You come up here, you got the reverse lock. Trey's going to lift the motor from over there, and you will get absolutely amazing clearance out of this motor raise.
So Jake and I will get it out on the lake in a couple days, and I know Trey, you were taking some measurements of his other boat.
Yeah.
Show us what you had planned.
So Jake brought his 2020 Predator PDL down, and I've actually stuck my power pole on here just for measurement purposes. But what I'm going to do, the plans for this one, basically the same as the plans for that one. I'm going to take this 4-bolt pattern that is in this Predator, and I'm going to make an adapter plate that'll come straight back, and it'll also tie into the inserts that are currently into the back of the kayak for the rudder. And then you'll be able to mount the 403A mount onto this the same way that we've mounted it on the pre-2020 Predator. And Jake has a custom prototype rudder that fits into the A mount, so that when you're using these pedal drive kayaks, a lot of people don't like to motorize them, because when you motorize them, you lose the usage of the rudder when you're trying to pedal. So we've created a rudder that goes into the A mount, so that when you're fishing in a tournament where you can't use your motor, there is a rudder that goes in there and it works just the same. But when you want to pedal and you have the motor in, the motor will act as a rudder also. Jake's actually holding the prototype rudder that we've got that fits into the 403A mount. And we've actually designed that off of his other PDL, and there's no flex in it. It kicks up just like the motor. It's sturdy, it's light, and it turns the boat really well. So Jake's been testing this thing out for a while.
I mean, you basically have, you know, a good amount of size right there compared to what you have right now. And just not to correct you, but this is the 2020 Predator PDL, but it's also, this is the big water PDL 132 out of the new Sportsman line. There's no differences between the two. Not that I can tell. You can maybe ask Old Town, but outside of some very, very small, you know, niceties, there's no differences in the mold of the boat. So everything should be the same.
Cool. Nice job, guys.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're getting ready to launch. Trey, you got your SS127 here with, looks like you got your rugged inline mount.
Yep.
Want to tell me something about that?
The rugged inline mount Gen 2 allows you to put the Power Pole Micro and the Torqeedo 1103 together on the back of the kayak. This will be my second trip out with it. It worked really well the first one, so we're looking forward to getting it out here again today. Get on some good fish. So
cool. Jake, get your stuff ready to roll.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna show off this foot control steering.
Yeah. We are.
Good.
It's gonna be a fast.
Tell me a little bit about your experience on this body of water.
At Mattawoman, not a lot. I've only fished here a couple times. Mattawoman itself, I haven't had a lot of success on, but I know there's giant snakehead in here.
Cool.
Like, I know we're going bass fishing, but
you're gonna catch snakehead.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, bass is cool, but snakehead's better.
They're fun.
They're a ton of fun.
Yep.
So
you have a net?
I do. It's big enough for an average size snakehead.
Yeah. They'll jump out of that.
Oh, they'll jump out of anything. You get them inside the kayak, watch your toes.
Right. All right, I'm currently plowing and climbing Trey's wake. But we're heading to the back of the creek, and we got an incoming tide. We got a lot of nice flooded spatter dock here on the sides that we could be working, but we're just gonna go straight to the back. So before we get back there, you just had a fish jump next to you. Jake, give us a little. I'm gonna back off my throttle. I want you to give us a full demonstration of the foot control steering. Go.
Okay. So yeah, we installed this foot control steering the other day at Trey's house, down at his shop. And I mean, I got full.
Oh, nice. Looking good, man. Beautiful.
That boat basically just turned within itself. This was what I've been waiting for. This right here. I mean, you know, it's exactly what I wanted. So
nice. Blast off. He's also, we've been tweaking with his the depth of that motor. I think he's got it a little bit shallow, but I think that's okay because you know, I'd rather have it too high and have it cavitate just a little bit at the beginning than to be so deep that you're always running aground and having to pull it up. So, you know, first time out, you always have to do some adjusting, and that's what that quick release on the ring clamp is for. You just, you know, bring it up a little bit, and if it's cavitating bad, you drop it down a little bit. If it's not cavitating at all, you bring it back up until it does, and then maybe back down, you know, ½ inch, ¾ inch, and let it go. So, all right, let's go catch some fish.
nice 18-inch largemouth, Untitled largemouth. Real fat belly on her, real fat. Just caught her on a big TRD Z-Man in the deal color, and I'm using a owner EWG hook with a 3/16 ounce head. It really helps out when you're fishing this wood and stuff, having that EWG hook there. You're not getting caught up a lot. You can toss that thing into some places. But nice fish. Oh man, he's blind. Ouch. Maybe that's why I caught him. All right, so we're heading up a different arm of the creek right now. We just caught a bunch in one spot. We were on a creek channel bend, and it was in about 8 feet of water with wood. A lot of wood, because I've been having to retie leaders left and right because, you know, rubbing up against it and all that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the side imaging to find some more wood and hopefully that same depth range. But I think if we can find it maybe in a similar depth range, maybe on a bend or off of a creek channel, I think that would still be pretty productive too. So that's what we're going to look for now. There's some wood right here, so I'm thinking that's a tree branch right there that starts under the water and comes up this way. You can see there on the other side of me.
Looks like you got one. What'd you get him on? A white jackhammer? Cool. Alright, they already took off. I guess I'm gonna catch up with them. Looks like we're making a run. One.
Called Rip Rap.
Nice.
Where we upgraded in a tournament, I figured.
Come here, fishy. Here's some riprap. Trey just got one who was 15 and right around 15. This is probably its twin. Always wet the board. Yep, right on 15. All right, we will open up the Angler app. We're gonna go ahead and do a photo. Turn that around. Get him in there. Use photo. I gotta let him breathe. And then we'll log this largemouth, length 15. Save it. Done. Cool. Oh, they're pretty little tanks here on the tidal Potomac. Get him back in. Nice and gentle. We all kind of went in different directions once we got back into this cove, but I was catching up and I look over, I see Trey's rod bent over, so we'll see. He's got another one here.
That one's
nice
15.
one, man.
15.
Jake missed this whole code. Left it for me.
Nice. So they're starting to hit moving baits. The two fish that I got were swimming the finesse jig, and you said yours have all been on the white jackhammer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's time to put away the finesse and start jackhammering them. It's a great way to just cover a lot of water. Oh, I think this has got to be a snakehead. As angry as it is, and just twisting and shaking. Yep. We got a snakehead. Woohoo! Hello, critter. Check you out. Did you like my chatterbait? Yes? You're gonna like my net even less. You gonna jump for me? You're gonna behave. They never behave. I have had them, I'm gonna take my key off because all sorts of pandemonium may ensue. I have had them rip out of these boga grips before. What a beautiful animal. Alright. Oh, beautiful and slimy. You got a mouthful of teeth. Got it. Got it. Oh, pretty fishy. You are awesome. Look at all the different holes they got on their head. You see what I'm talking about? They got these little pits. Each one of those is like a nostril. Alright, well, I'm not gonna eat this one, but I am gonna take his picture. 25 and a half inch snakehead. It's actually a really good eating size, but we're not gonna do that. Cool. Use photo, and I'm gonna mark a fish right at 5 pounds. Got that logged, and we'll go ahead and let our friend the snakehead go back. Go home. Oh, that's a bigger one. Oh, getting the snakies. Instead of a grip and grin, we're gonna go get them in the sunlight. Showing the pretty colors. Use photo. We go back to calling it a bowfin, even though it's a snakehead. And length, I don't know. It's bigger than the last. I might have to estimate this one. We're gonna call it 26 1/4. My board goes to 26 and it's hanging over the edge. About 5 pound, 12 ounce. All right, back you go, critter. You go back to your little corner there. Ready? See ya. They just sink and go away. So Jake had gotten, how big of, you got 2 nice ones in here, didn't you?
Yeah, two good ones here today. In this little spot.
You throwing the jackhammer with the yellow on there?
Yeah, it's a white and chartreuse jackhammer. I mean, it's pretty dinged up.
You get them on these pilings?
So the big one I got, I actually cast it. I was at this angle. I cast it up in between those pilings, and as I was just bringing it through, it was like a solid pressure bite.
Yeah.
I set the hook, and she was there. So.
How big?
19 and a half.
Oh, nice. All right, I'm catching up with Trey. I could hear him up there cackling, and he's got a good one, looks like. Nice, man. Where'd he go?
Fine.
How big?
I ain't even measuring yet.
So tell me about the tournament, the online that you're doing.
It's a benefit tournament for someone who has cancer. I'm kind of a sucker for benefit tournaments. I don't fish a lot of tournaments, but I always feel the need to, when someone is in need of help and there's a benefit tournament, I'll usually sign up for them.
Nice save.
18 inches.
That save may make the highlight reel.
There
like
you
a
go.
slow-mo.
Yeah,
Very
it's a
nice
good one.
fish. Get your pictures, man.
Yep.
We're getting some good ones here. I mean, they're starting to eat moving baits. Would you get him on?
White chatterbait.
Yeah.
I've been switching off between the chatterbait and the spinnerbait, black spinnerbait.
Yep. So the ones the guys have been catching, every time they say it's related to wood. So every one of these little logs that I see sticking up, I'm hitting it from 3 different angles as I pass. Just motoring along at, like, you know, mile an hour, maybe 1.2 mile an hour. The ones that seem to be catching the better fish, a little bit further out from shore, a little bit deeper water. And all you need is a little nub sticking up. That's enough. So I'm gonna get this guy on the angler log and get her back in. That was just random fan casting. Didn't even see a piece of wood. It logged another cookie cutter, Mattawoman 15. We'll get her back in there. All right, we're heading back to the launch. What are your biggest 3?
19 and a half, 18 and a half, and a 16 and a quarter.
Nice. Biggest 3?
18, 15, 14 and 3/4.
Nice. And my biggest, well, 2 of them were those snakehead. And the biggest largemouth I got, 15 and 3/4. So it's a good day out here. You know, it's the grass isn't totally up yet, but it's popping up, and you know, fishing on Mattawoman in May is a lot of fun. You're happy with that setup?
Oh, I love it.
When are we going to get it on the river? That's the real test.
Doesn't matter to me.
That is the place where you just lost your mind, dealing with the 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 rudder.
Style drove
Yeah.
me nuts on the river.
Cool.
So
I'm glad it worked out. That's the cleanest, you know, sort of aftermarket foot control steering I've done yet. So yeah, show it off for me, man. Pull up here, let it rip.